ABC7 Eyewitness News presents Vote 2026, the Race for U.S. Senate Republican Candidates Forum, produced in collaboration with the League of Women Voters of Illinois and Chicago and Univision Chicago.
Good evening, I'm Judy Sue, and welcome to our second forum in the primary race to be the next U.S. Senator from Illinois. This time, we'll be hearing from Republicans in this race. We produce this forum in collaboration with the League of Women Voters of Illinois and Chicago, as well as Univision Chicago. And tonight, we have three candidates joining: Casey Hlebeck, Jeannie Evans, and Don Tracy. Joining me and asking questions tonight are ABC7 political reporter Craig Wall and Enrique Rodriguez from Univision. And now to the ground rules for tonight's hour-long forum. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question with no rebuttal tonight. We determine the order by random drawing and will be rotating who answers first for each question. All eligible candidates in this race were considered for inclusion. We invited these three candidates based on the following criteria: being legally qualified to hold the office that they are seeking, having a campaign website, and being among the top three in fundraising as of December 31st, 2025. We will have statements from other candidates running at a separate time, and those details will be coming your way later tonight. And a reminder, the views expressed are those of the candidates, not the League of Women Voters, ABC7s, or Univisions. And sponsorship of the forum is also not an endorsement of any candidate. Ready here tonight, so let's go ahead and get started. First, each candidate will get 1 minute to deliver your opening statement to the voters, and the order was also determined by random drawing. And candidate Hlebeck, you may begin first tonight.
Good evening to you all. I'm honored to be here with you tonight. I'm Casey Hlebeck, and I'm running for the United States Senate. I came here with a unique experience because I come from communist Poland. I graduated from high school, legally came to the United States, and I resumed my studies. At UICC, I received engineering degree, but I never worked in engineering. I worked all my professional life in the IT profession. I also became a Commodore of Chicago Yachting Association. I developed a real estate business. I come here because of many challenges we are facing as a nation: rising cost, rising inflation, rising property taxes. I would like to address all these issues to make sure that you are alleviated from that burden. I come here.
Okay. Thank you. Both questions coming up for you to have answers to. And now the opening statement for candidate Evans.
My name is Jeannie Evans. I'm a conservative Republican running for United States Senate. With Democrat leadership in Illinois, we continue to see high prices and high crime. We need a fresh voice who will innovate to bring down prices for American families and to make our communities safer. I'm a political outsider. I graduated from Harvard Law School. I've worked my career as a lawyer to level the playing field for small businesses and to bring down prices for American consumers. I've taken on powerful corporations, and I've recovered billions of dollars for American families. My husband and I have raised our family on the south side of Chicago. Our children have attended Chicago public schools, and we've participated in church community. We have unfortunately a devastating impact of crime, and I'm committed to working with law enforcement to make our communities safer and more prosperous. I'm ready to work for you.
Thank you. And now candidate Tracy.
Thank you, League of Women Voters, ABC7 and Univision for hosting this tonight. My name is Don Tracy. I'm for the U.S. Senate to replace Dick Durbin. This law in Springfield for longer than I would care to admit. I also own a very successful family business. I co-own it with my 11 siblings. In my 30s, I owned and operated my own small business where I had to make payroll even when I couldn't afford it. Although I'm not a career politician, I have been helping elect Republicans up and down the state of Illinois for many, many years. I'm running to including my service as chair of the Illinois Republican Party. I'm running to defend the American dream, which is being undermined by the far left and their extreme agenda. If elected, I will go to Washington to reduce the cost of living for all Illinoisans, especially working families. I will go there to champion common sense solutions in Washington, D.C., and I will go there to represent all of Illinois, not just Chicago.
Thank you. Now let's get to our first question here tonight. It concerns federal immigration enforcement. The question will be coming from Enrique tonight, and candidate Evans will have the first response to this. Enrique.
Judy, thank you. Good evening, everyone. In December, Governor Pritzker signed a law allowing residents to sue federal immigration agents if they believe their civil rights have been violated, and restricting some federal enforcement activities near certain public areas. Since then, the Justice Department has filed a lawsuit to block that law, arguing that it conflicts with federal authority under the Constitutional Supremacy Clause. So please explain to us, what is your view on states' roles versus federal immigration enforcement legality and on enforcement limits?
Yeah, I think that one of the issues we're facing here is we care about immigration enforcement, secure the border and stop the flow of illegal immigrant country. We do need to enforce our immigration laws, and unfortunately, states like Illinois and others are not cooperating with federal law enforcement. I think it's very important, and if I was the senator for Illinois, I would work to build cooperation between local, state, and federal law enforcement so that we can enforce our laws and have a reasonable immigration system and make choices about who is coming into our country, and that we are enforcing the laws.
All right, thank you, candidate Tracy. Your answer.
Under the Constitution, it's very clear that the federal government has the sole responsibility for immigration law, and the state and local governments have no say in that. So I expect the legislation, Enrique, you mentioned, will be held unconstitutional. And that it's also the responsibility of the executive branch to enforce immigration law. How they do it, obviously, is discretionary. It's worked around the country in sanctuary cities due to massive resistance. It's not working as well as it should, as we all know. But I think Tom Homan, who was the border czar under President Obama and then under President Trump, is in charge now of enforcement in sanctuary cities. And I think he's going to figure out a better way to enforce federal immigration law in sanctuary cities.
All right, thank you. Same question, candidate Hlebeck.
First of all, we have to recognize the fact that our immigration system is 100 years old and needs to be a total overhaul because it does not apply to the current economic conditions. It does not serve our interest. So actually, in the 22 cycle, I proposed that to establish a recruitment service outside of the country to recruit people to be immigrants that follow our rules and adhere to our principles and values. But for the moment, in order to make sure that we somehow control the situation, I would believe that we should have a special purpose provision that a law is to follow exactly the procedures and rules that won't misjudge the situation and apply arbitrary rules when we apprehend the people. So I think what we should do is with a control, but for the moment, if we apply the rules of law, let's follow the procedures, let's follow the Department of Justice recommendations, and let's follow Warren's procedures that are necessary to follow.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to move on to our next question here tonight. It is coming from Craig. And candidate Tracy, you will have the first response to this one. Craig.
Candidates, simply define due process, and should it apply to citizens and non-citizens?
Well, we have due process for non-citizens. It's called applying for citizenship. And then we have a due process for non-citizens when they come into the country undocumented or illegally. And that is that's a process involving immigration judges, and that can result in deportation orders. So that's my understanding to citizens, and I believe that under the law that it is a different due process system than for citizens.
All right, thank you. And same question, candidate Hlebeck.
I believe that in these cases we should be very careful when applying, because First of all, the due process that we are trying to address is sort of literally without many time justifications. So we have to make sure that we follow certain asylum principles that are being they should adhere to, and allow people the due process of law to make sure that they justify their situation that they stay in the country. Because if somebody's here 5-10 years, we should apply a little bit different approach to them, because maybe their positions are justified, and maybe as being already a good citizens and paying taxes to them, we should be giving them a way to citizenship. So I do believe that we should follow the law. Yes, it is indeed on the books, but we need to make some adjustment and accommodations. It cannot be a blanket way of just removing people from the streets.
Thank you. 60 seconds, Candidate Evans.
Sure. Yes, due process rights are important for American citizens. We do need to enforce them and protect our individual liberties. People who are not citizens of the United States do not have the same rights. So if you crossed here illegally and didn't follow the legal immigration system, you can be subject to deportation. I care about all people. I want the best for all people, but we need to be a nation of laws. When millions of people are crossing the border and we have an open border, there's a lot of problems, and we do need to enforce those laws, and people who didn't apply through the regular system need to be subject to deportation, and they wouldn't have the same rights.
Okay, thank you. And I will be asking the next question to the three of you. Candidates, there has not been a federal minimum wage increase since 2009, but some states and local municipalities have stepped in and raised theirs, as you know. The question is, do you support raising the federal minimum wage? Why or why not? And if yes, by how much? And answering first will be candidate Hlebek.
Can you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
Yes, it is about the federal minimum wage. It has not been increased since the year 2009. Some states and local municipalities have stepped in and raised theirs. Do you support raising the federal minimum wage? Why or why not? And if yes, by how much?
Well, I support to the extent of the law, the federal immigration, but as I say, we have to adjust it to the existing conditions, because some people that are here may be here for an extended period of time, and actually rules should be somewhat a little different. If we overhaul entire system as we should, these things would probably be totally alleviated. Maybe at this moment we would not even need the ICE to be in the interior of the country, but we don't have it. We have to live with the rules that are right now on the books. So yes, we have no recourse but to, at this point, follow what's on the books, but with some reservations, which are really well deserved for the many people that are in the country right now, because the number is approaching 20 million people, and that's a lot to actually expel from the country at a given time.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Evans.
Yeah, my background is as an antitrust lawyer. I sue companies for price fixing in order to promote market competition and lower prices for Americans. So I am all about market competition, and I believe in free markets as the means and the engine of prosperity and of jobs and of opportunities for the people of this state and this country. So I would not be proposing to raise the minimum wage. I would be proposing to peel back regulations and taxes that burden companies, because we want is to welcome companies to our state. We want to nurture small businesses. Small businesses help our economy grow and create jobs, and we want to promote that and not be subjecting them to more and more burdensome regulations.
All right, thank you. Same question, Candidate Tracy.
Thank you. The focus should be on real wages. We need to focus on raising real wages, not minimum wages. Minimum wages are for entry-level jobs and for the developmentally disabled. And Illinois really recently passed a law that hurts developmentally disabled by increasing the minimum wage such that some of them will lose their jobs, because for some of these people, they cannot produce anywhere near the value of even of the minimum wage. But work is important. The work ethic is the most important thing my parents gave me. It gives you a sense of self-worth. And teenagers rely on minimum wage type jobs, and if you raise it too high, you're cutting them out of the labor force. It's the bottom rung of the success ladder, and that's why the focus is misplaced on the minimum wage. We need to be focusing on real wages, and under the current administration, they have been increasing.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to our next question here tonight. It is coming from Enrique and candidate Evans. You will have the first response here, Enrique.
As you know, cost of living is a top concern for Illinois voters, with housing, food, and healthcare costs continuing to rise. So what specific actions would you take in the Senate to help working families struggling with affordability? And more important, how would you help local businesses, including our street vendors, who are dealing with higher bills and less or a reduced consumer spending?
Great question. So again, I've talked about my work as an antitrust lawyer. I am working to promote competition. Competition is what brings down prices. So what we need to do is increase supply. So housing is unaffordable for a lot of people. Electric bills are unaffordable. What we need to do is create more housing. But under Democrat leadership, we get more regulations, which makes it harder for developers to develop properties. If it takes months or years to get approvals and impact studies, you can't build. And then you don't have enough housing. And if you have small supply, your prices go up. If you have big supply, your prices go down. We need to build more housing. Same thing with energy. We need to welcome all sources of energy. You know, fossil fuels and coal, along with solar, all the sources, so we have more energy. That competition market supply will bring down prices. We will do the same thing with healthcare. I am so excited to go to Washington and try to root out some of the anti-competitive infrastructure in the healthcare industry, so that we can bring down prices.
That is your time. Thank you. And candidate Tracy.
The Democrat politicians now claim to be the party of affordability, which must be some kind of a joke. They say elect Democrats to reduce the cost of living. Everything Democrats do increases the cost of living. Taxes, they like old taxes, which they increase. They like new taxes. Housing, they like red tape, so you can't build enough housing. Open borders, you bring in 10 or 20 million illegal immigrants, and what are you going to get? A housing shortage. Gas prices, you cut down on drilling, and you're going to get higher gas prices, but they've come down now under the current administration under $3. The war on reliable, affordable energy waged by the Democrats and closing perfectly good power plants like one in Springfield before the end of their useful life reduces energy supply, raises the cost. Shoplifting, by being soft on crime, we have a shoplifting epidemic. That increases retail prices on almost everything you can carry out of a store. Who pays for that? The consumers. The Democrats are not the party of affordability. The best thing I can do is win this Senate seat.
Okay, thank you. 1 minute, candidate Klebeck.
You know, there are different ways to cut this cake, because actually increasing costs of living is also can be translated into reducing the taxation on the people. And my principal platform of the agenda is actually a 7-pillar agenda, which is about reducing taxes for all people. And it starts with actually abolishing property taxes, abolishing IRS income taxes, abolishing taxes on the retirement income, and a 5-year tax credit for new businesses, as well as no taxes for individuals up to age 23 and 26 that are married or go to school. This is the bottleneck of the concept of having more people to spend their money. You can, yes, fight, a lot of situations which actually are created, sometimes even well-meant, like increasing or using tariffs across the board to punish other countries, but we have punished our own people. So there are a lot of approaches to this, but most important is give people more money into their own pockets, their own money.
Thank you. And our next question here concerns sending tax dollars overseas. And this is coming from Craig tonight. Candidate Tracy, the first to respond here. Craig.
Candidates, given limited federal resources, how do you decide when U.S. tax dollars are better spent addressing needs overseas, such as foreign aid or military assistance, versus investing those funds in domestic priorities like infrastructure, healthcare, or education?
Whenever it's in the best interest of America. Traditionally, our foreign aid grants have been based on what is in the best interest of America. We need to project throughout the world peace through strength. That involves shoring up allies around the world, and one way to do that is with foreign aid. It also means providing foreign aid in poor countries where you could have issues with that could spark a local war, and that could cause a problem with world peace. So the main thing should be what is in best, and when we're talking about foreign aid, what is in the best interest of America?
60 seconds, candidate Hellebeck.
There's an adage that charity starts at home. So perhaps we should look at our own society, our needs, before we extend the foreign aid. But having said that, we have to remember for ages we were actually selling our goodwill to the rest of the world because we are providing some foreign aid. And I don't think it's a good idea just to blanketly eliminate the aid. It was expectation as a good of America to actually get some funds from the United States. Actually, my own city is a benefit of that because the bridge that was built came from UNRWA. So we have to be careful as far as removing our relationship with the rest of the world. We have to make sure that international institutions are preserved because it serves our interest. So, yes, there are a lot of things we can learn as far as reducing, providing the prosperity to our people, but let's also make sure that we have a goodwill extended to the rest of the world.
Thank you, candidate Evans.
Yeah, obviously our priority is to strengthen our economy and our civic life, and so we want to, focus on domestic, but the world is important, and having a secure, stable promotes American interests and also promotes the interests of the world. So there does need to be a balance. So, for example, we do need to think about whether we're sending aid to other countries to stabilize those countries. So along with charitable aid, I mean, there's aid in terms of military. And so like in Ukraine, where there's Russia, and we want to promote our ally and promote free security for Europe and the United States and the world, we do need to support our allies and continue with support for countries where it's going to build more security in the world.
Okay, thank you. And here is our next question for you. In light of recent U.S. military actions overseas, when should a president be required to seek congressional approval under the War Powers Act, and where do you draw that line? And answering first will be candidate Hellebeck.
Interventions, I would like to make this that maybe the best policy for us to stop all the wars before we start a new one. I don't think it is justified many times, and I don't think it serves our interests, especially with our even allies are being involved in this, and we are trying to create a sort of attitude toward our own allies. In order to preserve the peace in the world, let's terminate this process because we need 750 military bases to maintain peace. Maybe we need more of BRICS-like approaches to our world, where we can conquer the world by economic aid to the rest of the world. Make sure that they are in our corner. We do not make many friends by creating new wars. Actually, we are creating a situation where we are managing or maintaining the power by fear. I don't think it's the best. We probably should accept my mullah agenda, which stands U.S.
Okay, that is your
U.S.
time.
must be loved again.
Thank you. And candidate Evans, 1 minute.
Yeah, sure. Consistent with the War Pact, the decisions about waging war are with Congress, and Congress does need to maintain its role. I believe in a strong constitutional democracy with separation of powers, where we do have checks and balances between the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch. So we do need to get congressional input and approval for major war power decisions and long-term military actions. Currently, there will continue to be more time-sensitive, mission-critical actions that do need to happen, and that, for example, in Venezuela, when there's a strategic opportunity, the president uses his power to do precise police action to remove criminal drug lord who was not a legitimate leader of his country. And so in those kind of circumstances, the president has power to take action, but long-term and non-time sensitive war powers should be left with Congress.
Thank you. Candidate Tracy.
I think it can be very difficult to make a distinction between limited military strikes and actions and real war. Obviously, the president should have the flexibility in emergencies and in specific situations to exercise limited military action involving commando raids, the SEALs, the Rangers, things like that are in our best strategic interest, whether to protect the country from drugs or from other issues. So I don't know of a really good, clear way to draw the line, except I can say that if you're putting significant boots on the ground, which signifies to most people that's real war, then that's when that would trigger the War Powers Act for sure.
All right, thank you. And we're going back to Craig right now with our next question here tonight. And candidate Evans will have the first response to this question. Craig.
Candidates, is there a policy of this current administration that you disagree with? What is it and why?
You know, I'd like to focus on the things that I agree with. I think this administration is doing a tremendous job in various areas. So I think we have to give a lot of credit to the president to for securing the border. Under Biden, we had millions of people crossing illegally, and the president took action to secure the border and to enforce our laws. The president is working very hard to remove regulations. Under the Biden administration, they added 12,000 new regulations on businesses, which are just crushing our industry and making it hard for people to get jobs. So this administration is trying to repeal those back one by one. And so, for example, unless my time runs out, there's a new regulation on the type of refrigeration that grocery stores have to use, and that is increasing the price of groceries by 1%. The current administration is trying to roll those back so that prices can come down for consumers and so that businesses can thrive and create jobs and opportunity, and I support that.
Okay, candidate Tracy, your answer.
We have a very energetic president, I think most people would, which makes this a very broad question because there's so many different policies, so many different things the president is trying to do. Foreign policy, there's all kinds of initiatives. It includes ending wars, 8 wars, including the ceasefire in Gaza, working to end the Ukrainian war, and many other situations around the world. And in addition to that, the current administration is working to make for a better economy and passed a huge, big tax cut. Really helped the economy. So many things that our energetic president is working on. It's hard to answer a broad question like that, especially when you compare to the predecessor.
Okay, and 1 minute goes to candidate Klebeck.
I'm totally on board with President Trump regarding the regulations because extra protection that we have by all these over-regulated industries is actually a killer for many, many businesses. We have to be careful when applying them. If it applies to the safety, then yes, I do agree. But many times they are totally irrelevant, and sometimes I even would ask, maybe we need more of things, businesses to deregulate it, their way of doing things, because it may be a job killers and definitely is not helping us in the competitive market worldwide, because we have very restrictive policies, whereas elsewhere, including China, they have very relaxed policies and they mass-produce products and overwhelm our markets with our own. We have to be very intensive, and maybe we should have a policy before you create a new regulation, kill 3. I like this principle, and I am on President Trump on his efforts.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our next question here tonight. It is coming from Enrique, and candidate Tracy will have the first chance to respond. Enrique.
New work requirements for SNAP took effect at the beginning of this month, putting millions of Americans at risk of losing their benefits. Do you believe these new requirements are necessary to encourage more people to work, or do they create unfair barriers for people facing food insecurity during times of economic hardship.
I like the new work requirements. I think they're long overdue. When President Clinton reformed welfare as we know it back in the 90s, they instituted work requirements for welfare that involved 30 hours a week. And these work requirements for SNAP and Medicaid are only 20 hours a week, and it only applies to able-bodied adults without young dependents. The only way to get off welfare is through work. Work provides a sense of self-worth. We have too many able-bodied Americans out of the labor force living off of welfare. We need them in the workforce. There are labor shortages, especially in the trades. And so I applaud the government for encouraging able-bodied adults to get off their couch and to get back into the workforce.
All right, thank you. And Klebeck.
I believe that we should have some form of assistance in especially critical situations where people have no other recourse, they have no job, and they are literally at the end of the line. We have to also make sure that this protection, SNAP as example, is not a replacement for a job, that it does not guarantee you staying out of the job market. And we should make incentives when doing this that they look and seek for jobs. So maybe when they are applying for a job, we should also channel them towards some sort of training for a job or whatever, in order to make sure that they don't stay on that support system, because it can be very enticing. You don't have to work almost or very little to get the aid. So let's keep it. It's necessary. There are some situations that are calling for it, but let's try to make sure that we do not make it a replacement for job creation and looking for job in the market.
Thank you. Candidate Evans.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the priority, because we have to remember that the priority is human flourishing. It's free enterprise. It's helping people pursue the American dream. So the goal in the end is not the welfare benefit. It's giving people the tools and resources to support themselves and to pursue their version of the American dream. So I believe strongly in education, job training, economy where AI and other technologies are replacing jobs. We need to think about reskilling, retraining, and funding people to be able to have the tools to get a job. We want our schools to be teaching students, and we want to be modernizing our education so that people are trained in skilled trades and able to get a job so that they can support themselves. A safety net is important. We care about everyone. We care about the poor and the needy, but the focus is job training. And so programs that push people toward a job are great because we care about human flourishing.
Okay, thank you. And here's your next question for all of the candidates. Do you believe states should be allowed to redraw congressional or legislative district maps in the middle of the cycle outside the regular post-census process? Why or why not? And what constitutional or democratic principles guide your view? And this question will be answered first by candidate Klebeck.
Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
It is about redrawing the congressional district maps in the middle of the cycle. Do you believe that states should be allowed to do that? Why or why not?
I am totally against gerrymandering. I think it's meant only to change actually the outcome of the elections, and we should take every measure to make sure that if any changes are made, they are well way in advance of any elections periods, because that interferes with the process. It's obvious it's meant only to corner the voters in certain directions to make sure that a given candidate probably wins the elections. I don't support gerrymandering, period, but if it's done, it has to be done way in advance to prevent this kind of maneuvering with a potentially voting process.
All right, thank you. Candidate Evans, 1 minute.
Yeah, I love our country. I feel so privileged to live in a democracy where we get to vote for our legislators. And I want to continue and protect that tradition where we are picking our representatives, and our representatives are not picking who votes for them. So I support fair boundaries and districts, and not trying to gerrymander to sort of manipulate the district.
Candidate Tracy, 1 minute.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Gerrymandering is not a good thing for the voters. For that, the Fair Maps proposal that's hopefully be on the ballot fairly soon. And I'm speaking here from the state of Illinois, which is probably the most gerrymandered state when it comes to congressional districts. And I don't like the timing of it, last minute. And the Illinois Democrats are very good at that. During the 22 election, when Justice Kilbride was not retained, and it looked like Republicans were going to pick up a 4-3 majority on the Supreme Court. The Democrats came in and gerrymandered Supreme Court districts last minute. They also created sub-districts, judicial districts down in Madison County, and it was so late that some of their candidates had the wrong date of the deadline for submitting petitions, and so they were thrown off the ballot and had to run as write-in candidates. So last-minute gerrymandering is particularly bad. It's chaos.
Okay, thank you. Our next question here tonight will come from Craig, and candidate Evans will have the first response to that. Craig.
Well, Illinois has only had 2 U.S. Republican senators since 1985. What sets you apart from your opponents and gives you the belief that you'll return this to a Republican-held seat?
Yeah, I, as I said, a political outsider. So the 2 other challengers on this stage have run before multiple times. I'm running for the first time. I think that Illinois is ready for a fresh face of the Republican Party in Illinois. I think we're ready for the next generation. I am someone who has worked as an attorney in the real world fighting for Americans. I have been reduced for Americans. As I said earlier, I am committed to fighting crime. With my background as a lawyer and working with economics and antitrust, I'm looking to bring down prices. I'm looking to promote competition. I'm looking to remove regulations so that businesses can thrive and people can have. I think this is what all of Illinois is looking for, not just. I think Democrats want lower prices. They want jobs. They want safe communities, and I'm going to bring that message to every Republican Democrats.
All right, thank you, candidate Tracy.
Well, I recognize, I'm realistic. This is going to be an uphill dog fight for an Illinois Republican to win. But when Mark Kirk won in 2010, I was with him. I was running for lieutenant governor. And that seems like a long time ago, but it really it isn't. I'm optimistic that we have a reasonable shot at winning this as a Republican for the first time since 2014. Topeka won because it's an open seat. Running against an incumbent, unless you've ever done it, you don't really understand the advantages of incumbency. Also, the people on the other side, the 3 leading contenders, they're not, sitting statewide office holders except for Stratton, but she, was elected on coattails of Pritzker. So none of them are that well known. So that gives us a shot as well. Chicago has a lot of issues, and Illinois has a lot of issues. At some point, the people of Illinois, which this cycle, are going to recognize that it's time to make Illinois a 2-party state again. And winning this seat would start down to making Illinois a 2-party state.
Thank you. Same question to candidate Klebeck.
Yeah. I think the reasonably Republicans have a very good chance to actually turn Illinois, but certain things have to be followed and looked at because the agenda that they carry forward is very, very important. My agenda is actually about the primary election, but about general elections. We have to provide that we are working for the people and with the people. And that's the essence actually of my agenda. If we abandon people and look at the special favor groups, we're not going to make it. So we have to be very careful in this cycle to do it, not just here in primaries, but also in general elections. So my advice is take a look what the agenda is, because if the agenda crosses the boundaries and might ask, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, there's something for you there as well, okay? And also, my agenda makes sure that we forward in our society, okay? But first of all, don't make and mix politics with policies. Let's work with the people and for the people.
That's the time. Thank you. And our next question is coming from Enrique, and candidate Tracy will be the first one to respond. Enrique.
President Trump has recently called for Republicans to nationalize elections across the country. Do you believe there are any instances in which the federal government should take control of state elections?
Well, certainly, the federal government has already, the Congress, and passed a bill requiring relatively clean voter rolls, and that's why the Justice Department is suing the state of Illinois to clean up their voter rolls throughout the state. The Democrats, of course, tried to nationalize election law 4 years ago, and it makes me, a little nervous. I mean, the Constitution, I think, is pretty clear that the states are supposed to are primarily in charge of election. But I don't know. I do believe we should have voter photo ID in every state, whether it's nationalized or not. 80% of the voters think that voter ID is a good thing. I also support proof of citizenship, not for voting every time, but for initial registration. I don't know why every state wouldn't do that. But to nationalize all that, I don't know. I know that the concern is that with 50 states, it's hard to hack.
That is your time. Thank you. And same question, Canada.
Voting rights are actually at the heart of our process of democracy. I believe that we should make sure that those who vote are eligible to vote. I don't see any problem with having voter IDs. I don't think that actually overextending the process by doing extensive mail the process, because it's prone to actually fraud. And many times we see that they received more votes than there were people registered. This is not the way to do it. I think we should establish a specific date, make it a holiday, and ensure that people vote just on the day, not that somebody else throws ballots in a box for them. So let's make sure that it's done one day only. And some provisions do apply for mail in. If you are disabled, you cannot do it. You are entitled, of course, to do it by mail. But that should be very restricted. We cannot use it as an extension of voting process. What's next? We're doing but by internet? I don't think it's a good solution. I think we should.
Thank you. That is your time.
Strict rules. Thank you.
And candidate Evans.
We're privileged to live in America where we have the opportunity to vote. I encourage everyone watching to vote in the primary in March and the general in November. We also have a right to feel that our votes matter, and election integrity is important, and we do need to take the steps to make sure that the elections are fair and we're getting an accurate count and the right people are being elected. I believe in federalism. I think we have a vital in America where all the states are laboratories for testing out different laws and different ways of doing things. I think the law indicates that states handle elections, and I support that. I support the states running their own elections. I do see some room for federal standards. I think there is broad support for voter ID so that you're not voting if you're not entitled to vote, and I do support those efforts. I think if I heard the news correctly, a statute just passed to require voter ID, and I would support that.
And now here is your next question. In a period in which the executive branch is said to be institutions and regulatory, here's the question. How do you see the role of Congress in acting as a check on executive? And answering first will be candidate Klebeck.
Can you, I'm sorry, but can you repeat it a little?
How do you see, the question is, how do you see the role of Congress in checking executive authority?
How do I see?
I will repeat the question again. In a period in which the executive branch is said to be dismantling key institutions and regulatory oversight, how do you see the role of Congress in acting as a check on executive authority?
I think the right is sometimes applied correct manner, not applied correct manner, because as you can see, those are at the helm of the power. I think we should have a lot more of overseeing procedures to make sure that it's done in a manner. I don't think that our agency should be serving the ruling powers. I think we should be serving the people. So if we are adhering in different directions, we should definitely make sure that it is in a very organized and well-executed manner. So regulations applied in a proper manner.
All right, the same question, candidate Evans.
Yes, I believe in the separation of powers and that Congress does need to exercise its authority as one of those powers. So I think it's good for our country when Congress does things by legislation. As Mr. Tracy said, we have an energetic president who's doing a lot of things. When those things are done by legislation, they're more permanent and long-lasting, and so we need to move in that direction toward, for example, at the border, the president has done a great job of securing the border. A lot of that has been through executive action. Under Biden, it was very different. So there's H.R. 2 right now, which is a piece of law that would legislate a lot of those things, so they'd be more. The next administration might not make the same mistake. So I think it's very important Congress take action. We do things by law, and things that will be long-term, like tariffs, done by congressional approval so that they can persist and that people can rely on them rather than that they can be changed by the next president.
Okay, Candidate Tracy, a minute.
I think we have a great system of checks and balances. Our founding fathers were brilliant in the Constitution and drafting one with the three branches of government and checks and balances. And over time, depending on the different situation, it seems like there's not enough checks and balance. But no system is perfect. Certainly, I think we have the best in the world in terms of checks and balances. I think one of the issues here is executive orders, and that started under President Obama. There was a flurry of executive orders, and presidents have done them for a long time, but they really went on steroids under President Obama, and President Trump certainly did several, and then President Biden was very big on executive orders as well, and that occurs when you have sort of gridlock in the Congress, and so presidents feel like they need to push forward, but I would not want to see any kind of in the Constitution to address this, because I think this is an issue that comes and goes.
Okay, our next is coming from Craig tonight, and Candidate Evans have the first response here. Craig.
You touched on it just a short time ago, but give me your overall impression and philosophy on the use of tariffs as a tool in U.S. trade policy.
Sure. I think the current administration has used tariffs to bring certain other countries and trade partners to the table to achieve certain objectives. And I see what the federal government is doing there, and they've achieved some good results for the United States. I am a free market economist. I am an antitrust enforcer, so I very much believe in free market. So I am more on the side of, over time, if we need to use tariffs for instance, specific situations or to achieve certain goals, that those would be more short term, or we would be trying to reduce them. And overall, we're trying to reduce tariffs in the long run so that we can have a more free market, free trade, and vibrant economy for the United States and for the world. And that is what will build prosperity at home and abroad.
Okay, thank you. And Candidate Tracy, 60 seconds.
I think the president is trying to use tariffs to negotiate more fair trade treaties. We've been subsidizing the world, including China and Europe, for way too long. We had to after World War II, but we should have stopped it a long time ago. And I think the president is trying to use tariffs also to bring manufacturing jobs back to America. To what extent, whether that would be successful ultimately, I think the jury's still out on that. But I'm just glad that the current administration is trying to negotiate better trade treaties for the United States and for our manufacturing.
All right, thank you. And same question, 60 seconds, Candidate Hleb.
I believe that tariffs can be applied when reasonable, in reasonable situations. When we find ourselves in a situation where a country is trying to flood our market with certain cheap products, yes, I believe that can be used too. But if you use it arbitrary, to use some own objectives to maybe punish a country for certain their actions, I don't think is justified, because in the end of the day, it is not just the country that is being tariffed, but also our consumer has to pay a high price. So you can see then many times the prices are translated food market, and ask our eaters, can they export their foods easily? No, because of tariffs, also because of counter tariffs imposed by other countries. So let's don't use it in arbitrary fashion. It can be justified only in a specific situation where we try and address a very good dumping situation where we cannot compete. But otherwise, let's be careful with applying tariffs.
Okay, I appreciate it. Now we're going to do something just a little bit different here. We have some time for a few lightning round questions, and this is how this will work. I will be the one posing the question, and we are asking each of you to respond either yes or no, just a yes or no for the lightning round. We're going to try to get through many questions here. This order was also determined again by random drawing, and here is your first question for our lightning round tonight. Should Social Security be privatized? Yes or no? Candidate Tracy.
No.
Candidate Klebeck. Yes or no? Should Social
I
Security
say yes.
be privatized? Okay, Candidate Evans.
I would say not at this point.
Okay. The next question is, would you support a national abortion ban? Candidate Tracy.
Abortion is not, no, because abortion is now a state issue.
Candidate Klebeck.
Sometimes the answer may be yes, sometimes no. This is life at stake. We should not be as careful in saying yes or no, because if life is in danger, maybe yes to abortion.
Candidate Evans.
Can you please repeat the question?
Would you support a national abortion ban?
No, under Dobbs, I'd leave those decisions to the states.
Okay, next question. The Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, or SAVE Act, is proposed federal legislation requiring individuals to provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote in federal elections. It's passed in the House. If elected to the Senate, would you support the SAVE Act? Candidate Tracy.
Undecided. I support the act, but like I said, the Democrats tried to nationalize elections before, and this could set a bad precedent in that regard. But I support the act.
Candidate Helevic.
I support the act of making sure that everybody is registered to vote.
All right. Yes or no?
I support voter
Evans.
ID. I'd need to read the act.
All right. Again, we're doing a yes or no, but we will move on now. Do you support President Trump's decision to pardon the January participants? Candidate Tracy, yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Candidate Helevic.
What was it? I'm sorry?
Do you support President Trump's decision to pardon the January 6 participants? Yes or no? Do you support it? Candidate Evans.
You know, it's 2026. I'm moving forward.
Question. Do you support the DREAM Act that was recently reintroduced by retiring U.S. Senator Dick Durbin? Candidate Tracy.
In concept, but only as part of a comprehensive immigration reform.
Candidate Klebeck. For the DREAM Act.
I think we long overdue to resolve the solution. Yes, I do support.
Okay, Candidate Evans.
And I support comprehensive reforms to make paths to citizenship.
Okay, on to our next question. Should the U.S. remain in Candidate Tracy?
Yes, but we should pressure them to pay their share.
Candidate Klebeck.
Yes.
Yes, and Candidate Evans.
Yes.
All right, I got 2 out of 3 to just answer yes or no. Next question. Should the U.S. remain in the United Nations? Candidate Tracy.
Yes, but it should be reformed.
Candidate Helebeck.
Maybe it can be reformed, but first of all, let's support international institutions. They served our cause at some point.
So no yes or
yes.
no. All right, Candidate Evans.
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you think there should be term limits for Supreme Court justices? Candidate Tracy.
No.
Candidate Klebeck.
Yes.
Candidate Evans.
No.
3 out of 3 gave me a yes or no answer. Okay. Do you support the retention of vote by mail? Candidate Tracy.
Yes, with appropriate election integrity governance.
Candidate Helebeck.
I think I explained myself. I'd like to have a one-day voting designated. No.
Candidate Evans.
Yes, with guardrails.
Okay. So there we go. We finish our lightning round. Thank you very much. We are now, though, going to ask each of the candidates to make a closing statement before we conclude here tonight. So each of you will have 1 minute for your statement. And Candidate Tracy, you may begin with that.
Statewide offices in Illinois are now held by Democrats. That includes the 2 U.S. Senate seats. Now that this U.S. Senate seat is going to be open, it's a terrific opportunity for an Illinois Republican to win statewide again in Illinois. But winning that seat will not be easy. It will be an uphill dogfight because the Democrats will have a lot more money than the Republican candidate. And for that reason, no job for a political novice. I have worked to build organizations, and I'm building a team of 16 already. I have raised the money and resources to pay for organizations and the campaign. I have worked with diverse coalitions, which is like herding cats sometimes. I know how to deal with adversaries. I am the most qualified to win that particular seat. We see.
All right, thank you. Candidate Hlebek, closing statements.
Okay. Tonight matters because our future matters. I humbly ask you to give me a chance to accountability to Washington. I think we can do better. As a senator, I will fight for you each and every day to make sure that our prosperity and security is assured, okay, by lowering our taxes, by making sure that we have opportunities, by making sure that we have appropriate and that we have also secured retirement, okay. I believe that if we apply our own principles of fairness, okay, I believe that people, with the people, we can come and become.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Candidate, a minute.
Yeah, the two others on this stage have run before on multiple occasions. It's time for a fresh face of the Republican Party in Illinois. I am ready to work hard to motivate people with conservative values, our entire state, to come out to vote in November. My message will resonate. I'm bringing the legal skills and experience that we can use in Washington to lower prices for Americans so that you can afford to have a home, put groceries on the table, and pay your electric bill. I am ready to work for you. I'm ready to work with the president to some of the regulatory burden that's stifling small businesses so that we can have job growth and opportunity here in Illinois. I'm full of hope. I'm ready to work for you. I'm tough in the courtroom. I'm at the negotiation table, and I will get good results. I encourage you to vote on March 14th in the Republican primary and to vote next generation of leadership.
Thank you. And that does it for the time that we have here tonight. I do want to thank you for taking part in this forum, as well Craig Wall and Enrique Rodriguez, Univision, for joining me in asking questions tonight. We also want to thank our partners at Univision and the League of Voters of Illinois and Chicago. And you can find this forum in full on our website and wherever you stream. And we will also be hearing from some of our other Republican candidates in this race who are not part of this forum. We invited them to give a 2-minute statement. You can watch those on Sunday morning on Our Chicago during our 8 a.m. newscast. And if you missed our forum with the Democratic candidates, you can also watch that on our website and wherever you stream ABC7. Thank you again for joining us here tonight. Thank you for joining us, candidates. Have a great night.